I'm going to be going through 3D printing the Thorn from Destiny 2. This one I've finished with the For the King ornament. I'm using Cura, but you can use whatever slicing software you prefer. I increased the pieces to 120%, and I'll link the model in the description. This whole print took around 40 hours to finish and 290 grams of filament. I used a lightning infill for most of it, apart from the bolts, of which I went 100% just to give them more stability. I'm printing this on an Ender 5 S1. Now, I mean, I could have upped the speed a bit and printed it quicker, but I wasn't in any rush to get it printed, and you get better quality slower. And once I sliced all that, I sent all the bits across to the printer. Now I just used a cheap filament. People may disagree, but I find very little difference between expensive filament and cheap filament. To me, the only difference is really colour and whether you're using silk or matte. I tend to use a matte filament if I'm sanding and painting, and as I say, you don't seem to get tangling or poor sizing now like you used to years ago, so I don't think you really gain much by spending a lot more on the filament. On the bed I'll use glue stick, which saves losing prints. I finished the front in white for no other reason than I had some white to use up, because it's all going to be painted. I tend to clean up a lot of the parts before assembly and painting. The front bits had supports in them, but there was no supports in the rest of it. And once I've done that, I'll assemble. That's the trigger system. It just slots in with just a small spring. The main difficulty really is in the assembly is it not coming loose as you glue it, because then there's not really much you can do except break it apart. The two parts of the trigger system, and chamber, they have to go on. You can't put them together and then put them on the barrel. You have to put them on one at a time onto the barrel. That's mainly because of the parts for the horns. It won't slot on as a one piece, so the back piece has to go on first, and then you have to glue the other part onto that. Once you got that together, you have to stick the bit in for the chamber, and a little bolt goes in for that. The handle you can assemble, or the grip you can assemble beforehand, which I've done. I've assembled that and glued that, and that can slot in afterwards. I'm just making sure that side is lined up as best it can. I mean, obviously it's going to be filled and sanded afterwards, and then really comes the difficult part of gluing it and hoping you've got it all in the correct position and all lined up, and that the trigger doesn't come loose. Now I tend to use super glue for fixing these together. I mean, I've not tried some of the other glues, perhaps a slower curing one, but it works for me. But you can use whatever you want as long as it holds it. The horns, after this is all assembled, the horns go on separately. Just glue on, and then you can glue the handle on. This is really the only tricky part, is getting this right. Once this is right, everything else it seems to go on with no problem. Once I got the glue on there, I just put the top part on. It's quite a strange model in the way the connections are, but it seems to work, and it breaks up the joint, so filling and sanding, it doesn't tend to show a line. just slotting this bit on, as I say, which is a difficult part. Well, not difficult, it's you just hope you've got everything set right. And once this is glued, you should put some clamps on it to hold it. Unfortunately, I only had one to hand, but I did put some more clamps on it to hold it, and it dried fine. And it's fairly tight because it goes onto the barrel. It sort of holds it together when you put it on, so it's not too bad. I'm just checking the trigger's working there. That's still working. The chamber part's moving, so that's all good. Now, most of the other parts just glue on fairly easily once this is dry. The handle or the grip just slots in with the dovetail joint on there, and that glues in. And the main chamber has got a pin to it which glues into the end there. Just careful not to glue so it won't spin once it's attached, so that'll still spin once it's all glued up. That's where the handle goes on. Of course, it's all got to be filled and sanded afterwards, but that's a little dovetail for that to go in, and then that's basically the main body of it complete. You just got the other little bits to add in. See where the little round bits go at the front, that's for when it's painted and finished. They're one of the last things to go on, and this bit at the end as well, one of the last bits to go on. And then from there, I put the other bits on, fix the other bits on, and this is sort of the first stage. I've given it all a coat of black, and I've started filling. Then it'll be rubbed down a bit more on the joints and filled more. Trigger's still working, that's fine. There's a trapdoor to go in the bottom there. That's in the design. I think it was designed to maybe have lights and batteries in it and that, but that just goes in the bottom there. You could add that if you wanted to, just showing where the white bits go. As I say, they go in right, one of the last bits to go on once it's all finished. I've put the horns on there, glued the horns on. That's the bullet, and then it's just a case of sanding it right back and painting. And this is it now. This is where I've finished it. I did go back and touch up a few bits on it as you look at it, but I was quite pleased with how it turned out, and I think it's quite a good representation of the gun in the game. I shall try and put all the details. I'll put a link to the model in the comments, and if anyone wants to know anything, or they're making one, needs any help, as best I can give any help on it, just ask away, and I'll do my best to answer.